Good evening, everybody. It has been some time, for sure. Life's been busy. You're not interested in any of that. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. Recently, I spent a considerable amount of time working on Rescue, and I wanted to use the Steam input library. It comes bundled with Steamworks, and this right here is. Oh, actually, I don't have it. Let me bring it up so you can see it. Okay, this bit right here, just above my head, where it says controllers not supported, that's an issue because my game does actually support controllers. It is not configured correctly for the badge to display correctly on the Steam page, but it's there. However, even after I get it configured correctly, I'm going to have an issue. And that issue is that it's going to say partial controller support. Or it's going to say this, support your Xbox controller. Let me see if I can find one of those that's partial. Yeah, there we go. Mostly playable with your controller. Okay. The reason for that is because none of these games use the Steam input library. The Steam input library is the only way to guarantee 100% controller support from Valve's perspective, as far as I understand it. And we'll switch back to this. Now, that's not really fair because if you use another library, you can support all of the controllers so long as the library is in line with what the Steamworks or the Steam input library does, which is really just a DLL written in C that has a lower level hook because it's written in C. It can read the messages from the operating system, from the Windows message pump, and likewise in Linux and Mac, to receive the hard input from a controller or a keyboard or a mouse or any other human interface device, and then map that to some other function that your game cares about. Well, the Steamworks library isn't the only one that does that. There is actually another that I've been hearing a lot of hubbub about. It is, well, we'll get to what that's called in a minute. Let me just get ready here. Okay. Yeah, perfect. This is the thing. All right, we'll get to that in a second. And I know I haven't said what that is yet, but we'll get there. So I spent about 4 days messing with the Steam input library, which is ample time for me to be able to understand a piece of software and to be able to use it somewhat effectively. I was not able to get anywhere with it. Not really. It has a function called Steam input get connected controllers. This function is supposed to return an array of all controllers that are connected to the system. Now, because this happens at the software level and not at the hardware level, it's possible for that array to be empty when the game first starts. While the game's initializing, The Steamworks library might still be gathering data, so it doesn't quite know yet. So what I did was I hooked an async function that will detect when a controller is connected, and it will return that what's called a controller handle. It's really just a 64-bit ID number that hooks that is connected directly to or references directly that particular device. And my thought was I will take all of the devices as they are detected and stick them in my own array and just iterate that, and that'll be fine. That did not work. It did, kind of, right? It did. It did like it did detect the device and it gave me the handle. The problem was loading what is called the VDF, or the Valve Document Format. They are these documents you have to write when you release a game for Steam using Steam Input that basically tells the Steam Input library what all of your game's actions are, or action sets as they were. This would not load. And I thought, well, maybe I put it in the wrong place. Maybe I named it the wrong thing. So I spent 4 days between Steam documentation, um, other public code repositories where I was reading what other people did, and ultimately came to the conclusion that it just doesn't fucking work. That's it. It doesn't work. Maybe I'm still doing something wrong. I don't know. But if it takes me 4 days to get started with a library, that's not a good library, and it's poorly documented. On top of the fact that the documentation is horribly out of date. So I need to move on. I need to move on to something else. And I thought, well, I wrote my own input manager for Rescue. It actually has a dynamic input manager that has the concept of actions and action sets. This was before I knew that Steam Input was even an option. I knew I personally needed something a little more robust than having to do constant key press checks and key hold checks, because that looks like dog shit in all of your code, in any device or in any object in the game that cares about keyboard input, mouse input, or gamepad input. So I wrote my own manager using a struct and struct accessors and some wrapper functions around that to be able to say things like uh, if button pressed, um, player one fire, or if button pressed player two throw grenade. You know, my game was context aware, and it would give you the ability to remap the controls, and that'll work just fine, right? It's actually really fast and it works great. Here's the problem: it still uses the native functions within GameMaker, which may or may not support all input devices, and it's really important for me to support as many input devices as humanly possible. And it's because input devices are an important part of accessibility. The controls from your and whatever input device you use can be remapped. It can be remapped with programs like Joy2Key, which I don't recommend you use. That thing's got all kinds of input lag. It's not its fault. It's a good program. It just, because of the nature of how it has to work, it has input lag, or will create input lag. The correct answer is for me to allow remapping of the controls right within my game, which isn't terribly difficult to do. It's by no means trivial, but it's not terribly difficult. And we're going to get to that probably in a later stream. Tonight, we're going to talk about the actual solution to the problem, I believe, and it's actually just called input. It is a free library for GameMaker. This comes with its own GameMaker extension, a DLL, which means it has those same low-level operating system level hooks that the Steam Input library has. From what I understand about it, it actually works. So we're going to dive into what this is, how it works, and what we can do with it. And this is by no means an instructional video. That is not the goal here. I have never used this before, and I haven't even heard of it until yesterday. I haven't even looked at this. The first time I'm even looking at this webpage. So I'm going to be learning this library tonight, and we're going to start a brand new project in GameMaker just to kind of feel out how it works, to see if I like it. to see if it works, if it's in line with my goals. And if it is, then we'll have to retrofit it into Rescue somehow. It's going to be a lot of code rewriting, but that's okay. If it makes the game better, it makes the game better. Is my mic on? Yes. Yes, it is. For the first time ever, I did not forget to turn my mic off. Awesome. Good streamer. So let's start with the first things first. Let's find out if there's any limitations as far as like what versions I can use. I don't think that's going to be a problem. You see, with the Steamworks library, the Steamworks bridge, which is the GML extension that you get from the asset store, which don't get it from the asset store because that doesn't fucking work. Get it from the GitHub repository and just download a release from there. It'll work much better. We're gonna do that here in a minute too. And also understand that the Steamworks demos actually have bugs in them, which is very funny. But anyway, the extensions bridge, we're gonna hook that into our game, and because we still need Steamworks, right? Because this is a Steam game we're releasing, you have to have the Steam API as part of your program, so the overlay works, so that you can see your friends list and all of that fun stuff. And so I can use some of the other Valve features like remote play. However, as I said, the Steam input thing just doesn't seem to want to work. So we're going to go with this, and I'll be, again, learning it. Oh, and as I was trying to say, the Steamworks extension actually requires you to use the Steamworks library 1.61, I think, where the newest version is 1.63 or 65, I don't remember. But it's not the newest version where the bugs that I encountered may actually be fixed. But it doesn't matter because the bridge does not work with newer versions of the Steam input library and has not been updated. I have put in bug requests or bug reports about this on their issue tracker. I'm sure they will go, mostly ignored, as most issues do. But we'll see. Maybe Yo-Yo Games will surprise me. It looks like input version 8 is for an older version of GameMaker. Okay, so it looks like everything's pretty well up to date. Let's do, where's the download? Oh, these are the docs. I want releases. That'll work. It's on GitHub. Awesome. Okay, no, that's fine. Let's make this bigger. I want to go to code. I want to go to releases. There's 86 releases. Jesus, these guys are. Oh, this was the releases page. I'm stupid. Okay. Here's the YYMPS file. This is what you actually need. This is the source code if you want to build it yourself in Visual Studio or in another program like GCC or one of the editors in KDE. But we're just going to we're going to grab this, and I'm just going to put it in my out there. Yeah, we'll just put it in my downloads folder for now. That's fine. It's only a computer, right? We can just stick shit everywhere. I really need to clean up my computer. It's a mess. I've got assets all over the place. All right, so let's go back to Game Maker, which I've already got started here. We'll pick blank game. Walls blank pixel game. That's funny. Oh, that's cool. You can pick what you want for. I've never actually seen that. I only ever start blank games. Or I can use that actually. That looks like a. Oh no, that's okay. Prototype. All right, so we're going to call this input testing, and we will let's go. Okay, yep, we got a room. We'll just start that up. Let's create. Oh, let's actually create a group. Rooms, and we will create a new group. We will call this objects. Okay, now let's import. Actually, you can do this. This is really neat. I don't know if you know you can do this. First, let me do it this way. We'll do tools, import local package. We're going to go to Steamworks YYP. Maybe not. Maybe we're not going to do that. Downloads, Steamworks extension. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And now we're going to open all the things. It's going to search the YYMPS file for all the shit attached to it. All we need is this, which is the bridge. We don't need the demo files, and don't import the demo files into your game because you will have to remove them again. These are the assets for the demo to work correctly, and then included files, which is this, just a document, not particularly useful. So all we need is the Steamworks extension. So we'll import that. All right, I'm going to open it up. First thing you have to do is tell it where your Steam SDK lives. If you haven't installed the SDK, you probably should have done that by now. It'll be on your Steam partner page. You can sign up to be a Steam partner for free. However, launching a game on Steam will cost you $100. But it doesn't actually cost you anything if your game is any kind of good. All right, we're gonna, what is it, under, I think it's under content builder. Maybe it is just here. I can't remember if it's supposed to be there or if it's supposed to be in the builder. Under here, I don't remember. We're just gonna go here and see what it does. All right. The application ID is not super important right away. 480 is the application ID for Space War, which is a game that does not really exist because everybody has access to it in Steam. And you can actually go to the Steam Analytics page, and you can look at how many people are playing "quote unquote" Space War. They're not playing Space War; they're pirating games. Oh my God! It's sports. Sports Geek, are you still there? I'm sorry, I wasn't. I had something covering my chat while I was going through my intro, and I didn't see it there. You are still there, and so is Funky Bottle. I haven't seen him in a while either. All right. Um, I could plug my application ID in here for rescue, but it's not super important right now, so we'll just leave this be. And I'm going to actually uncheck Mac OS and Ubuntu because we don't care about that. And we'll close this. Now, let's get the other library, which is this. You can actually just drag this right over. You don't have to import the local package. You can just drag it, which is actually very cool. I like drag and drop capabilities for programs. Okay, I probably should import all of this stuff, but I'm not going to. Ooh, well, we're at our first learning phase. I assume all of this is actually code. Jesus, it's not. These are all scripts. That little icon there is the GML icon for a script. Okay, so we're just gonna click here and add all of it. And then there's input plugins, binding icons. Yeah, that's probably useful. Color, cursor, gyro, motion. We're gonna input all of this for the purposes of this, but rescue won't need all of this functionality. Okay, I only really need digital and analog input. I don't plan on using any of the gyros. which gyros are, if you're not aware, it's your ability to turn the controller, and it keeps track of the yaw, the pitch, and the roll, which is very cool functionality. That actually started out with the PlayStation 2, I think. Was it 2? Yeah, it was 2. There were very few games that actually used it, and the games that did use it, unfortunately, did not use it super well. There was this one game where you like ride dragons, and it seemed neat until it wasn't. But anyway, so we're gonna okay, import all of this. Oh, this is nice and heavy. Here's okay. Oh, here's input and the input plugins. Okay, can I reorder these? Well, let me do that. No. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a group. We're gonna call it ext, and we're just gonna put all of our extensions in there. Since I can't reorder it, I can at least hide them. All right. So now let's input. Here's the system. Callbacks. Oh, nice. We have an event model. I like that that's there. I really, really like event models. Classes, scanning, gamepads. This is really nice. Actually, there's a lot of features here. Hot swap detection, mouse and touch, beautiful. Player data, input player connected account. Wow. Plugin API. Rebinding support built right into the library. Okay. Verb interaction. Verbs are, I believe, our inputs idea of what actions and action sets are in Steam input. So I'm definitely behind that. I'm sorry. I probably should be showing you guys this stuff. There. And no, simple. I have not had time to watch Dragon Ball Daima yet. Um, I'm probably not going to get the time to watch Dragon Ball Daima. Is it on Crunchyroll? Because if it's on Crunchyroll, I might make time, but I'm definitely not going out of my way beyond that. Oh, we have vibration support, verb groups, trigger effects. Okay, these are all plugins though. So that, and my head's in the way, you can't see those, but let me just, I can just make my webcam not there for Twitch users anyway. Sorry, YouTube, you cannot see the edges of my screen. So you cannot see the asset manager there, but it's there on the side here. Because I stream in a vertical format for YouTube, but a horizontal format for Twitch. Thanks to a very cool plugin I found for OBS. So let's get into this. Let's find, first of all, let's go to our objects. And we're going to create our first object, which is, of course, our game manager. And we're going to click persistent. And we're going to add a create event. And this is where we're going to do any setup. Now, first thing we'll also do here is we'll take this object game manager and put it right in the corner of the first room. That way it actually loads into memory and runs its events. Now, I say events, and that's a really misleading statement. GameMaker does not have events in the typical publish, subscribe event model. Events in GameMaker are actually steps, and it looks like we get ads in about 60 seconds. And all of the events fire in order. So you have your create event, which fires one time when the event is when the object is created. You have your step, you have begin step, and end step. You have alarms that are checked every frame and will trigger themselves when their time is up. You have a draw step, And these actually are real events, kind of. But they don't again fire like real events. They are just checked for their state, and if their state is true, then it runs through the code that's in that particular quote unquote event. All right, we have 15 seconds to do ads, and we'll pick back up after they're back, or after we're back. I did not start my streamer bot or speaker bot. I knew I was forgetting something, so I will start those. That way we have TTS.
We've got ads.
All right, so I'm reading through the newbie guide here because again, I've never used this library before and I don't know what I'm into. But it looks like you do define your own enum, and it is by convention called enum verb, and we're going to just go ahead and use that convention because why not? And it looks like we have it takes a game maker constant for what defines it, and I've never thought to do that. Put a minus sign in front of the axis. Oh, I see. I see. You have to invert this output because this will give you a negative number. Or it can give you it will give you a negative number when you lean left. So, okay. Well, a negative number. The axes on a joystick input are from -1 to 1, 0 being center. Input by default will start scanning for gamepad input when the game boots up. If the player uses a keyboard, then the input will switch over to using mouse and keyboard bindings. If the player uses a gamepad, then the input will switch over to using gamepad. Okay, that makes sense. That's pretty standard stuff. Oh, I somehow. Oh no, I didn't skip setup. I see it. They're anchors in the page. Okay. Yeah, I did that. Okay. Gamepad bindings. That's that. Next steps. Okay, that's that. We don't need multiplayer just yet, but we'll get to that for sure. Okay, just removed. That's fine. Now, is this? I don't see any libraries here, like any. Uh, it just looks like it's all GML scripts, and not. There's no C libraries anywhere. So perhaps I was incorrect in how it manages to detect all of the inputs, which makes me wonder if I should have used this to begin with. Because as I said, I've already built an input manager in raw GML, and I did it in a lot less code than this. Although this will probably be fine. Again, this is more of a global solution than it is a fixed solution for a singular game. All right, let's set it up. Okay, what is this thing telling me to do? Start here. Okay, we need the enum right there. It wants the enum. I don't like all of this extra input shit. Is that what they? Yeah, we're. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Okay, that feels much better. We're gonna do fire 1, fire 2, and fire 3. Okay, and that's the three action buttons on the controller. We're gonna do we need a pause button. And we'll do select as well. I'm not really sure what I want to do with that just yet, but it might be useful. Okay. Now we should say input define verb. Input verb dot left say left, in quotes, and I give it VK left. Then what is, well, they went undefined here for the analog variant, but I'm going to put in this minus GP axis L horizontal. Now, I'm kind of interested to find out what these input clusters are, because this isn't the only way I want left to be, right? I also want left to be on the A key, or specifically ORD A. All right, let's. Oh no, you'll need to edit the input config verb script. Oh, I have to edit the. I don't like that. That feels really bad, but okay. Where is that script? Hello there, YouTube. I'm sorry, something minimized my YouTube chat and I couldn't see it anymore, and I was not aware. I've been streaming for 2 years, I think. That's not really fair to say because it's actually been like, it's more like a year, and then I had to take almost a year off because life, because I have children and a wife and family and a job. Sometimes things kick your ass. All right, this is. Does it tell me where the file is? Let's define. Let's go. You'll need to edit the input config verb script. Okay, that's wonderful, but what the hell is that script? Verb interaction. Can I just search for it? Probably. Input config verb. Okay, it's right there. Oh, here we go. Input cluster. Okay. So we're just gonna 6 that because I don't need any of that. I need this. Right, so we have up, down, left, right. That's correct. We'll add fire 1, fire 2. If I could type fire 3. And I still have pause, special. We're gonna remove action. We're gonna remove. Cancel and accept are actually useful, but again, I don't want to do it this way, but okay. And then select. Okay. Then I have to edit this, right? Yep, I have to edit this and remove all the things that this thing cares about that I deleted. Okay. input define cluster, cluster navigation, cluster. Oh, I see. I see. I see. I see. I see. I see. Okay. Okay. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, so I can create input clusters for like gameplay, menu, and then I have different verbs that are associated with that particular cluster, and I should be able to activate one cluster at a time. That way, the inputs don't get munged. That's kind of cool. Okay, that's basically what Steam Input does with the idea of action sets, and they're in action set layers on top of that, but that's irrelevant. Where you can deactivate an action set for menus and then activate an action set for gameplay to switch from a game being unpaused or having a pause menu to, to then being in the gameplay loop again. Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna lie, I like this. I like the ideas here. I'm a little concerned about the overarching complexity. I'm actually worried about speed is the problem. I'm worried about being performant. It's probably okay because most of the functions are never even going to get called. Um, but therein is also a problem uh, because the game loads into memory, and I'm not sure how many of those libraries are going to get pulled into memory as well. Oh, well, you have yourself a good sleep, man. I mean, it's midnight. It's about time for Betty Bye. Most normal human beings. I'm just not one of those normal human beings. I didn't know that GML supported macros. That's crazy. I thought that okay. That actually changes a lot. Holy shit, that's fucking cool. Okay. Um. Okay, so I have to add the functions I just removed. That's how you do it. Look at that. Arrays. It takes an array as a second argument or a scalar. That's fucking dope. Look at you go. And GP pad U and okay, access held. Yeah. Fucking right. Okay, I'm a lot of bit impressed with that. Okay. I still don't like the idea that you have to edit a part of the library files. That feels a little but okay, to each their own, I guess. Um, we're gonna make this an array actually. VK space and VK enter. All right, we're gonna let's say we're gonna say input define verb input verb fire one. Um, let's go with um, one, just for now. And then that's going to be GP pad, no, face. Give me a second to pull up the actual face documentation because I can never remember. GML gamepad map. Fuck. Here we go. The bottom here. All right, I want fire 1 to be default to face 3. Okay. Input define verb input verb fire 2. GP face the top button. That'll be face 4. And we'll say input define verb input verb fire 3. Got to be all caps. I mean, it doesn't have to be all caps. GML doesn't care, but it should be all caps by convention. Let's make that 3 for now, and that's GP face 1, I believe. It's face 2. Okay, I don't know what this is about, though. I mean, this is obviously for the Nintendo Switch, as it specifically says that here in the macro definition, that this is defined if the OS type is OS_Switch. Oh, I see. I see. It's because the A and B buttons are in different locations on the Switch. They're reversed. That's it literally says that. It tells you that right here. Flip A/B over on Switch. Which where's the A and B button on Switch? A and B is on the bottom. So this is my A B. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. The B button is on the inside on all Nintendo devices, except for the GameCube, because that was special. Well, no, the B button's still on the inside on the GameCube too, technically. All right, so which means I need to switch this button. Just this one. Fire 3, which is here, needs to be face 1. Okay. Now, it doesn't really need to be for me because I don't have any intention of releasing my game on the Nintendo Switch or the Switch 2 as it goes. But I guess it doesn't hurt to be prudent, right? That's fine. All right, and we'll just change this back to 2. Okay. All right, we're going to set this up as navigation. I'm not really sure what the intended use here, though, is. It doesn't really matter. I can use just a single cluster. That'll be fine, sort of. Not. I don't know. I don't know. Navigation is more of a menu thing, and we'll just make a cluster for gameplay. Now we'll come down here, and we'll say input define cluster input cluster gameplay. And now we're going to add input accept here we'll say input verb up, input verb down, input verb left, input verb right, input verb fire 1, input verb fire 2, input verb fire 3. That did not go to fire 2, so fire 1. And then input verb pause. Doesn't like that. Oh, it wants no more than 8 arguments. Okay, well, that's going to be a problem. Oh. This does not do what I thought it did. Not at all. Okay. So we're going to remove that. Clusters are for two-dimensional checkers, input directions. That okay. They're not action sets. That's not how this works. Okay. But I can probably define something like that, right? Okay. I still need this though. This is fine. Did I add everything? Cancel, pause. I didn't add select. Okay. Input, define, verb, input, verb, select, tab, I guess. We would say VK tab, or GP select. We're actually going to change this, and this is something I learned from Fernando by accident, as he had a problem in one of the original releases of Rescue, of one of the beta releases, which was that not all controllers are recognized as a start button. Some of them are recognized. The button in that position is recognized as GP home by GameMaker. And because this is an all GameMaker solution, it looks like I kind of feel inclined to do that because it doesn't have the low level OS hooks that I was hoping it had. All right. And we have to do it again here. We're going to go. Why is this? Sometimes I'm really dumb. This is for the Switch, if not input on Switch. Okay. That explains why this is all undefined, because if our input is on a Switch, we don't have to worry about keyboard inputs. So I'm going to say the same thing, just to be consistent. I'm also going to just leave that GP start because that should be pretty consistent because it's only on the Switch. All right, we got to add 52 seconds. I'm going to be taking a short break to go grab a cigarette real quick. This is my second ad break, so I've been here for at least an hour. I'm going to guess that the reason we have these clusters specifically for navigation or two-dimensional checkers is to prevent double inputs, so you can't hold left and right at the same time, which is actually game breaking for a lot of games if you don't specifically check for that condition. All right. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the room. We're going to create a new object. Okay. I'm still waiting for the ads to start. I never got the notification from my TTS system. Like, I saw the notification about it. Okay. Set the image speed to 0 so it doesn't sit there on a loop. It should just be default pointed right. So then I can, according to the docs, I can find them now. Just copy paste that in there, and then we'll say if input check input verb up y minus equals 4 if Output, check, input, verb, down, y plus equals 4. That seems a little ridiculous, right? If you're looking at the math there, remember that all rendering engines render from the top corner. Let me actually get my backwardness right here. Okay. So from the top corner here, and it actually draws lines across the screen, just like old CRT monitors did. They count the same way. So yx0 is actually here on your screen, and this part of your screen is actually the furthest coordinate from that. So when you move something up, you're actually moving in the y minus direction, not the y plus direction. All right. Let's see what happens. Right. I did the thing. I probably missed a step because I was speeding through the material there. Got to put the object in the game frame so that it, runs. Okay, so here's the thing. I am pushing my buttons on my gamepad and nothing is happening. I'm pushing buttons on my keyboard and nothing is happening. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with the library. I probably skipped a step. We fill in the export name with a unique name for each verb. Finally, we leave the gamepad. Huh. No, that apparently is it. That's what I needed to do. But it's not functioning correctly. And now I'm really starting to wonder if the problem with my controller. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Because, like, oh, hold on. Hold on. Try something. X input standard gamepad, GID none. So if you hear I don't know if you can hear the do of me reconnecting a device. What I'm actually doing is there's a switch in the back of my controller which switches it from X input to direct input. And it does not seem to work at all on either setting. But I know my controller works, right? Because I can go into Steam. Actually, more importantly, I could type what is the name of that? Um, I don't actually remember the name of that built-in Windows app. Give me 1 second. Let me check real fast here. There it is. Okay, so what it is it's joy.cpl. It opens this bad boy. You can double click the controller. It brings up a pretty rudimentary interface where you can check all of the controls. Make sure they all work. Now, if I switch this, it gets mad. And then it crashes the program. And now it's got all of the accesses because it supports the analog triggers. Point of view hat, axis, the X and Y rotation of the second controller, and then all the buttons. So the controller clearly works and it's getting OS level detection. And I know the controller works in Game Maker because I've used my controller with Rescue and it works fine. But this is the second input manager that I've had trouble with this controller. I don't understand why. And is it this? Is it because I double mapped things? Yeah, these. Accept and cancel are mapped to some of the same functions that some other things are. Now, it did tell me to uh, delete everything that I don't need. Which I don't need the cluster. I don't think. So we're going to delete that. We're going to delete everything except left down upright. That's all I need for now, for testing purposes. All right. I don't need the game manager right now. I just need this. This is all I'm testing. All right, that's pretty bare bones. Let's see what it does. And it does nothing. But just for shits and giggles, right? If I say, let me I'm so dumb. You know why it doesn't work, chat? Input polling goes in step, not in create. It's on the event model. Look at that. Now, it can go in create, and I'm actually going to put it back there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to write function move actually say function handle input, and we're going to put that there, and I'm just going to say handle input every frame, which cleans up what appears in step. Step code, I have discovered, can get incredibly complicated and convoluted. So it's better to organize when you can. And that will still work just fine because I'm calling that function every turn, every step. But now check this out. I know my direction is 0 because that's the direction the sprite is pointing. We're going to set our direction based on inputs. Okay, so we're going to say if input check input verb up. Um, we'll just call it SPR, DIR. We're to say right, up, right, up, up, left, left, up, down, left, down, down, right. I don't know how this thing does enums, but most languages treat enums like numbers, right? So I could say if my input verb is up, I will say direction equals but I don't actually want direction. I want, yeah, here we go. Image, index, yeah. But now we'll say if, after I close that correctly, if input check input verb left. I could actually just inline this and say image index equals SPR DIR. And it's going to be up, left. If input check input verb right, image index right. But also important, if input check input verb right and input check input verb left and image index equals just up. And that's for all the up directions. So if input check input verb down, image index equals input str dir down. If input index, oh wait, what am I doing? If input check input verb left and image index equals str dir down left. If input check verb right image index down right. Okay, now if check input verb left and input check input verb right image index equals str just down. Now note I didn't have to do this last check on each one, right? This will only ever come up if you press both left and right at the same time, which on my gamepad you actually can do that. But what I could have did was just put an explicit not here, so I could say and then in quotes say not and input check input verb right, which just explicitly checks now. Why did that do? That should be yellow. It's the syntax letters having a hard time. Highlighter rather. It really doesn't like that. I did something weird. Doesn't look like I did though. Why is it? Oh, because I didn't close the conditional. Okay, for just GML and the GML VM, you don't actually need these inner quotes. But if you compile using the YYC compiler, like I do, which this isn't set up for that yet, but it will be. If this were to be a proper game release, you're going to want to put these on here because the actual C compiler has trouble with that nomenclature. But you can do this, but then it forces extra checks, right? When this could just be enough. And for the sake of simplicity, I don't need all of that. Now we do need to say, we need a couple more. We're going to actually put an else here. Else if input check input verb, write, index equals SPR dir, write. And we're going to say else if input check input verb left image index equals SPR dir left. All right, in theory, because these are all strung together with else ifs, no two of these should ever fire at the same time. And yes, I could have did this with a switch statement, because I'm sure there's at least one person that's going to watch the video here and go, well, actually, you could have used a switch that I know. And because I'm using enum, switches actually work really well. I'm testing the fucking library. Shut up. Point next year, I've been doing this shit more than you've been alive. All right, fuck it, let's test it. What do we got? Yeah, that broke. Malformed if statement. Where? Right here. All right, what's an assignment operator? Oh, because I did that. Okay, unexpected symbol. Oh, yep, too many quotes there, or too many things there, because I was doing that demonstration. Well, look at that. That works beautifully. That's really fucking snappy and responsive, too. Holy shit. Well, there we go, chat. I want to go ahead and say that this input library wins. Oh, I'm using the analog stick, too, now? Okay, so now this is really cool. We turn that button off. My gamepad actually has a lot of really interesting features. Pushing the gamepad button here in the center, this is kind of akin to the PlayStation, the original PlayStation analog button, where you could turn the analog sticks on and off by pushing the button. This does not do that. What it does is it actually switches the input from the digital pad and the analog stick. It actually swaps their inputs. And that works fine. I would expect it to. Let me switch this to the other input type. Analog stick still works. POV hat still works. Switch them. Analog stick still works. POV hat still works. All right, chat. That's fucking dope. I'm gonna say that is really snappy controls too. Like those are the kinds of controls you need, especially if you're working on a 2D game. Make no mistake. If you are doing a 2D game, the controls have to be tight. Now they should be tight in any game, but I understand why in 3D environments sometimes you get a little input lag. There's a lot going on there, and not every piece of hardware can keep up with all of it, and you end up with a bit of a processing lag and inputs get delayed and stuff. But when you are working on a 2D game, hardware is so far beyond that now that there is no reason to have laggy inputs. And not to mention, they make the game feel really bad. So I'm going to go ahead and call this a net fucking win for Rescue. And we're going to go ahead and get this implemented into the game's core logic. I got 35 seconds to another ad break, and I will be right back. All right, we are back. Um, the internet may be full of porn, but I can assure you it was invented for sharing cat videos. You heard it here first, folks. All right, that's cool. We could introduce some logic later so that turnaround is a little more smooth. It just snap. But again, we're just testing the library here. And while I was real quick to say we need to get this implemented into Rescue, we actually don't just yet. There's a few other things I want to check out. Specifically, I have all this excess code here to make sure you're not pushing multiple buttons at the same time. And apparently, input already has a tool for that, and it's the input clusters. So let's check that out. We're gonna create that. Okay. So let's look at input clusters. The next steps. Okay, this does not actually cover that, so we're going to have to get to concept verbs and bindings. It's down here. Where's clusters? Clusters. Here we go. Clusters are a group of 4 verbs that combine together to create 2 axes of movement. Okay, I see. Navigation up, right, down, left. Okay, we're going to put that in just the way you see it. And input define cluster. And we're going to say driving, input verb up, input verb. Is it right? I think it was. Yeah, it's up, right, and then down, left. Okay. Okay. You have to like that. Okay. Clusters do not need updating if verbs are rebound. 20 checkers, such as input direction, require the use of a cluster and will return an accurate answer, whereas using point direction on the basic verb values will not return an accurate answer due to the influence of gamepad, thumbstick, and thresholds. Right. Okay, but this doesn't show me this in use. So what I want to do is go up here, and I'm actually just going to comment out these lines because this should be automatically handled if I see that this is being done correctly. What I think is being done here. All right, I am pushing the entire gamepad in, which is something I can do with this gamepad. Oh, that does some weird things. Huh. So I'm not super thrilled with that behavior. It looks like it wants you to go up and it wants to just use positive values. No, it's not true either because that's a y negative value. But if I leave that in, what do we get? If I push the whole gamepad in, I still get up. Okay. So the problem here is the check order. So I want to push Control X and then Control V. Control X, Control V. But this isn't right because this one will check correctly and then this one will check correctly as well. So we have to put like this. Now only one condition can be true at any given time per frame. That still doesn't work. Okay. Is it it's this? Because it's actually the input that's being a problem. This is the code that actually moves you. This is the code that just displays the correct sprite. So changing things around here isn't going to have a huge effect on anything. So we'll say oh, one there too. Okay. It really okay. That so if I don't have that. Okay, this is an artifact of my gamepad, I think, but I might be wrong. So we'll be a little bit more verbose. Huh. It might just be the way my it is. Neat. Okay. Yeah, so when I use my keyboard to input two inputs at the same time, it does do exactly what I'd expect it to do. But it does not with my gamepad, and that's probably because of the way my gamepad handles multiple inputs. All right, so we can just do that. That's awesome. Okay. Now we could easily do these image index swaps here too, like right in one line instead of checking all of this again. But I like to keep things separate. Also, I do need to actually set the direction, right? Like I don't actually do that. So, um, and it's important a little bit for direction. Uh, we'll do it here. So we'll say direction equals 90. That's straight up. Also, direction equals 90 straight up. Not particularly important for me to check it to do that here because they'll still be set from here. Direction equals, if the direction is up left, I'll show you guys how you do this. We're going to look up the unit circle real quick. Images. Here's a nice one. All right, looks like, nope, that's not a nice one. I need actual unit values. This one? Yeah, here we go. So up left is 135. I'm actually going to move this to the other screen so I can see it. I won't be able to see chat for just a second. Upright direction is 45, of course. The down direction is 270. I don't know why I needed to check that. I shouldn't have had to check that. Direction equals for down left. I want 225. And for down right, 315. Okay, now for just left is 180. And for, oh, this is right. And just right is 0. Why is that mad? Unexpected else. Why is it unexpected? There's another one there too. It doesn't like the double statement. Okay. I can do this, right? Yeah, that fixes it. Okay, that's fine. The double statements afterward confuse it and make it angry. It's not really a surprise. The GML parser is not the most glorious thing in the world. And we'll just put these on new lines to clean that up a little bit. Okay. And that sets the direction correctly. So now we can say show debug message direction. And that's every step. That looks like it's working correctly. Okay. Nice. Okay. I noticed that it was a little bit buggy when I first started, though. Oh no, it was some text just shot past really fast. What was that? It's the text in the gamepad. Oh, nay, neat. I assume we can probably safely re-enable these clusters. All right. We can actually remove this too, and we'll put that in step. A little bit more verbose to make sure that we know what's happening every step. Having functions hand off to another function, it's a bit grimy unless that function is meant to return something, or you end up with this impossible to trace trail of function calls inside of other function calls. So if you mean for things to happen in order, put them in a place where you can see them happening in order. This will make debugging a lot easier. All right. All right. Well, that tests that. So now, the next most important thing we need to discover is how do we set this up for 2 players? Rescue is a multiplayer game. It will default to 1 or 2 players, but the way I'm building the enemy spawning system and the difficulty ramp, you could have like 4, 8, 16 players. They'll just keep adding shit to the game to make it harder. Kind of the way Borderlands spawns more enemies and more difficult enemies when you have more and more people in your party. Kind of like that. Kind of, except not more difficult enemies, just more of them. Although I suppose I could probably do that now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, that's for when we're actually working on rescue. Let's look at this for 2 player. Devices. All right, so where is the? It specifically says it understands the concept of players, but where? So this work is ongoing herein. Notable issues and limitations will be documented here. Okay. Okay. So I want to be using direct input, not X input. I'm currently on X. Okay. Because direct input understands more of the analog stuff. wife reaching out. Okay. Something updated on my screen, but I don't know what. Is it ads again? It's about that time. Oh, here we go. Player API. Oh, yep, ad break in 1.5 minutes. Okay. Oh, okay. Active. Type. Metadata. Status. As device. No. Input max players is thing. Yeah, I didn't think you'd be able to set that. It looks like constant. Oh, it's a macro. It's set to 1. Do I have to change that? Oh shit. There's specific. If you select custom configuration for Steam input default configuration, GameMaker will no longer receive any gamepad input from devices that are opted into Steam. Opted into Steam will require you to rely directly on the Steam input API by configuring your game extensively from within Steamworks, and will not work with the normal functions provided by GameMaker for the input library. Yeah, I'm well aware of this. That's yeah. Or if you would like to test without configuring your own application, you can substitute an app ID for an existing Steam app. Before distributing your game, you will need to switch your own app. Yeah, this is the app ID borrowing thing. I actually tried this a little bit to make sure it wasn't me. All right, this isn't super useful. It still doesn't really help me with the players, setting multiple players. It doesn't tell you. Huh. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just Google shit. And sometimes you need to reword things so that the search engine knows what the hell you mean. All right, this just got massively more complicated because of the way input works. It wants me to create a second object for the player, and I don't want to do that. What I want to have is one object, right? This, and in the variable definitions, I do something like this. I just set a string. Actually, I could just do an int. I could just say player, right? Default to 0. Actually, I could default that to 1 if I wanted. That would be fine. And then in the actual game world here, so when you're first starting game development, one of the things that you're going to be tempted to do is to create your first game world, your level, basically, and then you're going to put your player directly in the level. For most things, that's fine. For most things, right? I know for a fact that every Mega Man game that starts, the player's spawn point, the player's actually placed just above the viewport of the game in the teleporting in animation. And then as the level starts, you see the teleport down, and as soon as it impacts the terrain background, Mega Man spawns to life and you can play the game. The controls are handed back to you. Now, for games like that, that's fine. Super Mario, the level starts, Mario's already on screen. That's fine. Because I want to have a game where both players are actually the same object with the same code and essentially the same sprite, it won't actually be the same sprite. It'll be a slightly different recolored version of the sprite. And by the way, this is not the Jeep I used for rescue. This was another Jeep that I just had laying around. I have sprites of the Jeeps in various different colors. And player 2 has like a reddish hue, and I can do that detection, right? I can just say right here in the create code, I could say if player equals 2, I can say sprite index equals SPR player 2 or whatever. You know, whatever the sprite happens to be for that. Okay. Or I can say SPR Jeep red or whatever it happens to be. Okay. Or I can actually say this. I could say sprite index is Jeep, but I could say image blend. What does this take? A color? Yeah, it takes a constant color. Equals make color RGB. We're gonna do we'll do 100 in red, 0, 0. And it blends the colors together, not just overwrites them. So now I can say, actually, I'll do this if it's 1, so we can actually test it. And you see it's a reddish color now. Now that looks like absolute dog shit because it's too dark. So we'll say 255 for full red, 160, 160. That'll bring the brightness up considerably. Man, it's pink. There you go. Player 2 is pink. This looks like dog shit. It's better to not use the blend. It's better to just make new sprites. Because image blend will just universally wash the sprite with color without much regard to what pixels it's actually overwriting. So if you want something a little more clean, definitely don't do it that way. And again, for those of you that like to, actually, yeah, I know you can switch player case 1 image sprite index equals SPR Jeep break case 2 sprite index equals SPR Jeep red or whatever, you know, and then break again. You know, for my second sprite, whenever I make and include that, which I don't have imported in this particular thing. And this will run a little bit faster than if statements. Now, for anybody out there going, actually, if you can explain to me why switch works better than an if statement, okay, then you earn the right to make that statement. Okay, I know why a switch works better. Okay, I understand what this compiles to when it gets down to assembly and what's actually happening there. So if you don't know and you just like to spout off, you know, nonsense, go look it up. It's actually really interesting. All right, that being said, it is 1:20 in the morning. I have been streaming since about 11, so we're 2.5 hours into this, and I'm spending more time talking than I am learning the library. So I definitely want to jump into this and kind of a baseline code base of how I want to do this. Also, I want to wrap this in an object wrapper. I don't generally like using functions like this in a global context. I like everything objectified, and we're going to do that by creating a script, right? And we're going to call the script input manager, right? And then we say constructor, and maybe I'll take the player ID as an argument, or perhaps the game object itself as an argument. Okay, and then from here I can say something like input equals, I don't know if I don't think that the input library is a constructor library, so I can't instantiate it that way, or I wouldn't even need this, and I would be much happier with it. So I'm gonna have to do a little digging into how this actually works, so that I can isolate the player inputs. if I even need to. I may not need to because the way input works is pretty fucking clever. I don't know. I have a bit of an aversion to high level checks like this. I like everything objectified in nice little wrappers. It makes me happy. I actually did this for the entire Steamworks library too. I wrapped it all up in a nice object wrapper just to make sure I wasn't losing references or my mind. That was actually pretty cool. Did not work though. Not at all. So, holy shit. Script 299? There's 298 scripts already imported. Holy crap baskets. All right. And one of them is Steamworks. So, yeah. Actually, no. Steamworks doesn't have a script. It's just the extension. Well, I'll be damned. All right. Well, there's that, folks. I will be posting on Discord about any progress. Keep your eyes posted there. If you're not in Discord, go to my profile. The Discord link is there. If you're watching via Twitch, it's literally right there somewhere. I don't know. I can't see it. It's down there though. Come hang out. Keep in touch. Game is moving further and further toward release. I know this seems a little bit ridiculous, right? I'm working on input now. No, I'm not working on input now. I'm fixing input in a way that will make Valve happy with me, or as much as possible. So, all right. That being said, thank you all for joining me tonight. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you all at a later date, hopefully soon. And again, I will always be in Discord. It's on my phone, it's on my computer. Feel free to reach out if you want to ask about the game or if you want to see anything. I do have a couple of test keys left, although they really aren't fun to use. If I'm 100% honest, I don't push a lot of updates up to Steam until I'm ready to do something like important with it. And where is Steam? Right here. As you can see, most of them go to a developmental branch that nobody has access to. That's for me only for now. It's a password protected beta, and I may release that password eventually, but for now, it's incredibly unstable, and I do terrible things with the game engine, and it could very easily just start consuming huge amounts of cycles on your computer and do bad things. So, for the sake of not getting sued for what I do to people's computers, um, you'll only have access to the actual the release version of the game, which is not even for sale yet. I'm not early access. I'm nothing. It's literally just in development. So I will get back to that, and I will talk to you all later. If I can find my buttons. And there's the wife. Hi, wife. She sent me a message on Discord. I don't sound on. So all right. Well, I'm actually just getting off of Steam, or I'm getting off of stream right now, so that I can work a little bit more productively, as I was just explaining to everyone. And I will be messaging you back via the face thing or whatever. Good night, everybody. We'll see you soon.